Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I barely get through the intro. I'm pretty pooped, guys. I just got back from PAX West earlier today. It was 5 hours of sleep, plus then about 5 hours of traveling before I got home. Went live right away, and then Final Fantasy XI into some sponsored Opera Omnia content, and now I'm recording this. So I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to skip a lot of the pleasantries. We're going to read off the sponsor list over on Patreon, as we do. We're going to answer the questions, and then I still need to go do some other stuff before I can even relax. So, what do you say we get started? Yeah. So anyway, thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for commenting hashtag demonetized. There might be some misplaced names somewhere around here. It is the first of the month, so or first of the month has passed. So on Patreon, I gotta move things around. I gotta see names that were added, names that are no longer here. So if you hear a name and it doesn't sound right, then just wait till next week. Probably even expect this list probably to stay static through State of the Realm, because I'm probably not gonna have time to get to it before then. Anyway, we have our Patron of Light, Khuja Cross on Jenova. Again, skipping a lot of the pleasantries. They know how thankful I am. So they have their image on the screen right here, their screenshot that they provided. So thank you, Khuja. And that's it. Nice and simple this week. I don't need to fumble over a million ways to say thank you, because I appreciate you. And then we have our standard sponsors. We have Nairek and Kaya Amatsuki of Midgardsormr. We have Rendil Gaming, Sabo Empire, Mizra, Red Wings of Baron FC from Zalera, Fray Blackheart, Cidus Oreo on Shiva, Syd Hellwind of Gilgamesh, Afro Ninja from Malboro, Cheesecake from Leviathan, Sploda, That Lame Weeb, Ashen Emiya of Cerberus, Argoti Tristam on Midgardsormr, Fafarian, Rendil, Giraffeswillrule, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. Those are our standard sponsors. Our elite sponsors start with Senshi, Shinka, Crimson and Talvia Swift of Coworl, Just One Fox, Shadowlink on Tonberry, Dom, Asuka Wake from Jenova, Lemillionella of Midgardsormr, Sarah and the Avalanche family on Malboro, Janhyua Yotsuyu, we have Kifkin the Grey Eagles on Exodus, Dark Graver, Kadayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rah Xephon from Exodus, Rynoet Westos, the Purple Warrior, Yadric Red Steel on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goetia Valfer of Siren, Hirsch First of Fairy, I don't know what happened to me all of a sudden, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Saren from Zodiark. Finally, we have our premium sponsors. We have the Casual Heroes FC on Midgardsormr. We have Tata, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this one. Tatacha Taka on Hyperion, Kana Uzuki on the Jenova server, Yu Starla on Coworl, Sathal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Diablo, Holy Tabasco, Red Thorn Nasura, Kernai Oni, Askenhawk from Shiva, Crash 015, Mustang, the Serenity FC on Ultros, Kat Kazuma, Serial Kira on Cactar, Ingus Fairgun from Diablos, Celestia of Fanfrit, Knock Quarters from Excalibur, Corvus Moonscar, Private Mikey, Spike, Nadia Kirasami, Rudy Rudiger, Tank Colossus, Killer Hackman, Rawl Jr., and Killtastic Jones. Thank you, and apologies again for the lack of pleasantries. Having just come back from PAX West, I'm sure you guys wanted to hear a bunch of stuff, but we'll save those for individual videos. I've got maybe like 4 of them I want to make, and we'll see how long it takes for me to get around to those with everything else I've got going on. So let's get to the questions, and then I can get working on some of those items, shall we? All right, so we have question number 1. Hi, Haps. Not asked anything in a long time, so have a cookie. Cookie would be a good pick-me-up right now. I have one question, and one question only. Okay, has the Calamity Recruiter spawned yet? Yeah, this was a bit of a... I guess it would have been okay maybe if they communicated it a little bit better, the way it was being done, but I got my event done on Monday, so I waited a day. Not a big deal. It was just really awkward the morning of sitting there waiting and then just not having anything happen for a bunch of hours. So yes, he has spawned. I finished the event, and hopefully those of you who were waiting for the Calamity Recruiter have finished it as well. Question number 2. Hey, Mr. Happy. How goes the things? Oh, the things go well. Trust me. The things go well. Long-time watcher, first-time asker, have a bonus of my deepest thanks for all the guides that got me through so many primals and boss fights. You have my deepest thanks for watching them. On to the question. As you may know, the modding scene in 14 has picked up immensely over the last year or so, to the point that people are making completely original or unoriginal, looking at you Nier Automata, outfits and hairstyles that just aren't in the game. A lot of these are really well done, on par with what we officially get from the dev team. I think if this was brought up to the dev team, they'd be open to the idea of player-submitted game assets, step above the simple design submissions, or would the question force them to put a stop to modding as a whole? It's tough, because the big reason why modding kind of got their attention in the first place was not because of the things you're talking about. It's because people are using them to make lewd images and post them on Twitter and on the official Lodestone blogs and stuff like that. So it was almost like, 18 plus content that, they didn't provide, but it was almost sharing, I guess, what people who didn't know any better would just see it and assume that this was something you could do in game. And then all of a sudden it's advertising that goes against what their game actually offers. And so you have two options for this. Obviously, in regards to the lewd stuff, I don't think they'll ever back down from the degree with which that was produced before. But for the other things you're mentioning, I don't see why they'd necessarily be opposed to it, other than the fact that, they're very strict with the QA process, with making sure that it accurately works on everything. And I'm sure that that's going to be the big thing, is when you're doing the mods, all that is client side. And a lot of this stuff changes when you go over to things that are server side. So obviously, something that's a modded outfit can't be just put into the game server side, because the way it interacts with the code and with everything is entirely different. You don't know how the data transfers. You don't know how efficient it actually works in terms of the actual game engine. When it's on client side, then you have to take into the consideration that people can use client side modding to do things that, generally are not really frowned upon, but have been spoken about a lot over the years. We already have parsers. People already have something that resembles deadly boss mods. And the more opportunity you give for people to do client-side modding, or the more you accept even just the visual versions of that, the more you kind of speak up against being okay with the client-side modding on the other side anyway. And to be fair, Yoshi P's always turned a blind eye to client-side modding in regards to rate efficiency, because there are things that he personally would want as well, but has, considerations. You also have to consider the PS4, because if they start allowing client-side modding, then all the PS4 players, it creates a whole bunch of dynamics. Do I think it's something they would probably be open to? Maybe if the game was only on PC. But as soon as the PS4 players come into mind, and the concern over imbalances and, I guess, gameplay accessibility between the two platforms, I think that's really where they pull back as a whole from really wanting it at all. Question number 3. Dear Mr. Happy. So nice. It's been a while. It has. You have 3 posts total, so I don't know when the last 2 were. So I was thinking about Gaius, not technically confirmed, pretty likely. Next expansion and the potential for Blue Mage. Oh, this is going to be a question. With 14, sometimes it feels like, sometimes like taking a twist on traditional classes. Astro is sort of like a Time Mage. Summoner is more like, Summoner is sort of like a Summoner. I'm sure that in terms of tone, I know what you mean, because Summoner, I would have said, is more like a Warlock, like World of Warcraft. What do you think the likelihood of a Gunblade class being Blue Mage, instead of using monster abilities, use Ascian abilities from the mask? The Ascians don't really have unique abilities from one to the next. They're all pretty binary. And even then, that means that you need to be killing off Ascians, I guess, as part of the... I guess technically with Summoner, I can't really complain about battling Ascians, because, pretty deep part of the Summoner questline as a whole. But I mean, to kill like a main one would be... It's a little weird. No, Ascians aren't different, really. They're all pretty much the same thing. They all have orbs and dark, and it's all the same. Like, they're not very unique in any sort of way from one to the next. So, no, not really. I mean, I'm not a big fan of questions like this anyway, because it's like, what do you think and what I think is irrelevant. It's about what we can come to believe based on the context that we have in the game. But specifically this, no, just because Ascians are in no way unique. And that's kind of the problem with Blue Mage overall, is monster abilities, while they all have different names and have maybe slightly different effects, they're all generally not too unique outside of, I guess, how big is their AoE, or is it conal, or is it a tank buster? Like, those are the things that are different, but not really, like, if you took 2 mobs that do a targeted AoE and they don't have status effects on them, then the only difference is their damage values, and if one's higher than the other, then you'll always go with that. So, generally, the problem with Blue Mage overall, it's why, for a while, I wasn't necessarily opposed to the idea of them taking more of the Druid route with Blue Mage, where they transform into a beast, as opposed to that, and that's kind of more like an original take. That's a very original take, I'd say, on Blue Mage overall. So, yeah, I mean, just this idea in particular, though, I feel unlikely. Question number 4. Hey, Mr. Hap. Hello, it's me. You, that guy. The one guy who types way too much for a simple question. That's right, I talk too much for a simple answer, so we're even. Question, I always know you said you think time travel in the past is a bit weird for games, and I agree, especially for 14. Not saying I want it, but it could quench the thirst of those who missed 1.0. This makes sense for something like Matoya or some mage to send our memories into the past, to regain some of our strengths the character might have forgotten after. Oh, no, we are a million times stronger than we were pre-Calamity. We are so much stronger now than we were back then. The only way you do that is if Bard wants their cures back. So no, yeah, I'm of the idea that if we go back in time, it's not to 1.0. It's to the Allegan Empire, the era of the Allegan Empire, which is also kind of weird because you know how it ends. So then you need to throw in some sort of somebody's trying to alter the timeline deal, like Wings of the Goddess did, and it's tacky at best. I mean, to be fair, Final Fantasy stories are generally pretty cliche and tacky at times, so I guess it's not really that far out of the wheelhouse, but just not a wheelhouse that I'm willing to step foot into. You have a second question here in case I thought the first question was dumb. I have been playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, though only for like maybe 8 hours or so, because I went to PAX and I brought my Switch, but I just never played it. And then now I'm back, Dragon Quest XI's coming out, Spider-Man's coming out. So it'll probably be another week before I get back to it. And then the 18th is going to be, it's going to be 4.4. So then, you know, going to try to clear out those raids in the first couple of days. And then got all the guides to work on for all the dungeons and the raids. And it's going to be a hell of a time. So I won't get as much Generations Ultimate as I want. Oh, and then October 1st is MapleStory 2's head start. So yeah, it's going to be a hell of a time. But I'll try to fit in time with it when I can. I still have to go through the single player quest because I've only been doing the multiplayer. I need to go through the single player to get certain unlocks. So at least off stream, I should spend some time on it. So the next time I do live stream, I'm not like just like, hey, I'm on HR 34 and I've done not a single player quest. All right, question number 5. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hello. Long-time watcher, listener, first-time poster. Welcome. I currently live in Australia and have some problems with latency. Game sometimes eats my OG CD skills that have come off cooldown and say it's available. Press it, timer goes up by 1 or 2. Should I delay the use of my OG CDs for a few seconds extra regardless, or should they be used immediately on cooldown? I mean, delaying them by a couple of extra seconds isn't going to change the problem you're having. The problem you're having is, like, the game is skipping your input pretty much. I do think that it is... I think, actually, if I understand more in Toonly, it's more like the game is telling you it's off cooldown, but it's not yet. What I'm thinking of is generally what I would call, when I'm lagging, a refund, which is when you hit so much latency that your command that you issue from the client side doesn't accurately go through to the game on the server side. And it basically creates a hiccup where your ability starts to activate and then it stops. It sounds like you're getting something like that, but on a more severe level. And I don't know that delaying the button to the next GCD is necessarily going to be that. Just as long as you're not clipping your GCDs, that's really the most important thing. I would say that I'd assume if you're in Australia, you're playing to Japan. So if you're playing to Japan, and even if you are, you probably want to be using a VPN if you can. I mean, you could be a PS4 player, I don't know, and it gets a lot more complicated to VPN through a PS4. But, I mean, those are two things. If you're playing on NAEU, there's not much more I can do other than the VPN recommendation if you're not already doing it. For Japan, though, I mean, I'm really surprised to hear that your connection would be like that. That doesn't even just sound like Australian internet. That sounds like... Because I know people who play from Australia, and they do have lag. They almost all play with like a 200 plus latency to Japan. But that's not the same as like your 1 to 2 seconds. So I guess without actually playing in Australia, I guess I don't know really the feel of it so much. But VPN, and hopefully you're playing on the server that is actually closest to you geographically. So, although actually, you know what, North America, since it moved to the West Coast, isn't as bad for Australia. But the VPN should help a lot. Question number 6. Hello again, Haps. Hello. What's with all the 14 is dying stuff being uploaded lately? I haven't been uploading 14 is dying stuff. Do you mean other people have been uploading it? I've been uploading a lot of criticism about Pagos. that's about it for me. And I think one of the big things I feel like with 14's community, and I guess, I don't know, I don't see it as much with other games. Maybe it's just because I don't pay as much attention. But I feel like when people levy criticisms towards Square Enix, there's a very fine balance of where you want to do. You generally want your criticisms to not make you sound like a raving lunatic or like there's nothing else in your life that matters. You want to always be leveled about it and see things from multiple angles and think about what the end result could possibly be, and then provide feedback based on that. But we have a lot of not even hyperbole, but just overly passionate people when people providing feedback, and I can be one of those people, so that's how I know. It's just like, when somebody, like, for example, the game could be perfectly fine, and it's not WoW, so it's dying, right? Like, that's kind of like the gist of the extremes that I find that we go to with 14 more than any other game. Pagos, I feel like some people are rightfully passionate and overly upset about it because it was it has not been something, and then there are other people who refuse to see the perspective of other people who are enjoying it, and people who are enjoying it refuse to see the perspective of the majority of people who are not enjoying it. And there's just so much. There's way more butting heads than I was ready for with Progress. I expected there to be a lot more unanimity. Words. I'm not doing it after PAX. I expected people to be more unanimous about, I guess, their feelings towards it, but I've seen a lot of hostility. So I don't know. Anytime people don't like something in an MMO, this happens. But for us, I feel like maybe it's just more personal because I've been attached to the game for so long. Yeah, but you know what? That's probably it. For a more serious question, do you have any food hacks or certain cooking tips you've acquired through the years? Listen, you'd asked me 5 years ago, maybe, but I barely cook anymore. Like, I mean, I just gave you my schedule for today, and I understand that it's right after PAX, so it's not really an adequate representation of what my normal schedule looks like, but those are the kind of hours that I try to put in on a day-to-day basis, unless I'm taking a break, which I've been trying to do a little bit more lately, just to make sure that, you know, I stay at, like, a good place mentally. So, no, I don't have anything. Really, I mean, there's some simple things like I am more like a lazy man things. They're not like good tips. Like, for example, if you know, I don't know, if you don't have a pan to cook bacon in, you only have one pan and you're doing the eggs and you don't want to wait on the bacon. Like, you can put 2 layers of paper towels over a plate, put the bacon there, put 2 layers of that over, it all catches the grease, and you end up with microwave bacon. It's not good, and it's not in any way a useful tip, but it's a lazy man's tip, or it's a tip, just giggity, by the way, for people who, I don't know, just want faster bacon. I don't know. So that's it. I don't have anything that's not useful information. And you shared one of yours. If you like pancakes and you like peanut butter. So here's the thing. So I've heard a lot of people say this. I don't like peanut butter on pancakes, strictly because there's 2 reasons. One, I'm already not a pancake guy. I'm a waffle guy. Pancakes will always be like second or third choice. I don't even second, you know what? Third choice. Second choice for me as a breakfast food is always going to be eggs. So waffle, eggs, pancakes. So they're third. And then I like peanut butter, but if I'm eating pancakes, I'm eating them with syrup. And I don't like peanut butter and syrup. So, I mean, obviously the peanut butter's more so a replacement. You eat that over it instead of the syrup. But I want syrup. That's like my favorite part of the meal because, again, I'm not a huge fan of pancakes. So, for me, this probably doesn't work. I know a lot of people who do this, though. All right, question number 7. Hello, Mr. Happy. Are you doing well? I'm doing well. Are you doing well? I'm doing well. You doing well? I'm doing well. Long time listener. First time masters have a first time bonus of your favorite New York City pizza pie. New Jersey, New York, whatever. Send me to the Northeast. Get me a real pizza. First, a thank you, and then a question. As somebody who currently lives overseas for work, currently hopping around sub-Saharan Africa, oh boy, I want to thank you for your content. While traveling abroad, it helps me stay close and connected with all the community I love. Been part of these last few years. The content you create is fun, entertaining, and can't imagine playing this game without it. Thank you for the kind words. I can't connect to Twitch from here, poor internet quality, but should, when you talk to them, pass on my thanks to the other 4 horsemen, Sly, Ethis, and Mary. You got it. Question: with the recent update to how the PlayStation game is updated, do you think we might eventually see more trophies being added? I would definitely play through Heavensward and Stormblood again for more trophies. You know what? I know why they don't do more trophies, and personally, I don't even play the PS4 version of the game. But, like, I always thought it was something they were going to do. More trophies. Oh, what are the new Heavensward trophies? What are the new Stormblood trophies? And I don't think them changing this means there will be more trophies. They want to keep everything in the game. Sometimes people just need something to show off to their friends on PlayStation 4. That's why people platinum mad games, though, so their friends can be like, oh, wow, he platinumed that. He platinumed God of War. Oh, man, I haven't gotten that far yet. And then they go for it a little bit. So I always like the idea, but I don't think this will have any influence whatsoever on the PS4 getting more trophies for Final Fantasy XIV. All right, question number 8. The 14-hour live stream was quite nice. I also came up with some other names for 5.0, like Deep Purple Blackmore and Catch the Rainbow. All right. Fashion Report, definitely don't want to answer that. Turtle, Tiger, Bird, and, well, Dragon. So, Seiryu related, no doubt. And Moon Stations, the Imperium, and Dimension. So the third one is the only one that I feel like I probably know nothing about. I'm gonna scroll down and go with the third one. You think we'll see references to the Lunatic, Pandora, and Pandemonium in 5.0? What are your thoughts about it? So this is, again, one of those questions where, unless there's context in the game to assume we'll see it, I can't really have thoughts about it. The Lunatic, Pandora, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy VII are 2 games I expect to see heavily referenced in 5.0. I like the deep sea research facility. I expect to see a Midgar. I expect to see a Balam. Like, I do. It's, you know, I feel like 5.0 is the time for a lot of that stuff. But does that mean Lunatic Pandora? I feel like with the moon and I guess its relation to the Zodiarch, and I guess with us having an Ashen in the midst of the player base, or in the midst of the Garlean hierarchy now, that it is a high probability. But again, there's nothing. I don't know if we'll see these references because there's no context for them now. Question number 9. Hi, Haps. Hello. Long-time watcher, first-time asker, so I have a bonus of a thick steak on me. Thank you. So my question for you is, I find it hard targeting as a healer for the keyboard to the point where I had to start using a DS4 to play the game without letting my party die and DPS at the same time. Any tips you can give me on mouse targeting without mouse over macros, as I find them as unreliable as I am? My biggest tip for this is move your party hotbar away from the top left of the screen. You might already be doing that, but that's the biggest thing. Like, leaving your party hotbar in the very top left of the screen, the default location for it, that's a no-go for me. I move it to as close to the center of my screen as I can, because generally when I'm whipping my camera around, when I'm holding I hold right click to, you know, move my camera, you know, however I see fit. I hold right click like 80% of the time I play this game. I keep my mouse cursor pretty close to the center of the screen, so it doesn't take me long to just go over, click someone, and then click a skill. And that's it. I just practice that, and I'm not even great at healing, but it's worked for me for at least the most part. You know, could still use some tuning probably, and then when you're in alliance raids, you got to find the right spot for the alliance frames as well. But that's what worked for me, so that's the advice I'm going to give you. And the final question over on the forums. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hello. I've been slowly working my way through Octopath. While I've been really enjoying it, I've got one big problem that's killing my enthusiasm. About halfway through Chapter 3, and I'm starting to get really tired of go to town, quest dialogue, use path action, quest dialogue, dungeon, quest dialogue. Routine that pretty much all the main chapters seem to use. I love figuring out the side quests. I think I'd personally prefer there to be more variation in how the main quests work. I think one issue that makes me disinterested in them is that the dialogue is just addressed to one character rather than any of the other party members. One of my favorite aspects of RPGs is the interactions between parties, so my question is, if they were to make an Octopath 2, what improvements would you like to see? Any parts you think could be sacrificed in order to make these changes? I don't think you have to sacrifice anything Octopath 1 did to do those parts of the game differently. I don't see why. The one thing about Octopath is it is not a story about those characters. It is a story about the realm of Orstera. And that doesn't necessarily make it any better, but in that context, I don't really mind the way that Octopath ends up working. There are stories I like, there are stories I don't like in there, and that happens with every RPG. Whether or not they interact is fine. And on top of that, we do have interactions, they're just not within the context of the story, or at least not deeply in the context of the story. Technically, you get per chapter, you get 3 interactions based on who your party members are. I don't know if you can actually fish for all 7 interactions if you actually change party members in the inn while you're progressing through a chapter, because I don't do it very often. And then on top of that, you get some of the you do get some of the dialogue for the characters that's like just silly and stupid. My cat is being a butt. You do get some of that, but again, it isn't part of the game. It's very much feels like it was almost tacked on sort of at the end. I think that's the one big improvement. The next Octopath, if they do another game along the lines of it, which I think is not likely to happen for some time. I think we're more likely to see the next entry into the Bravely series before then. I'd like them to, I guess, work on those interactions more. I don't think you need to sacrifice anything for that to get these characters to work together. Like, you know, what if you have the choice to purchase something with Tressa, but you can also steal with Therian and it leads to a different cutscene? It is a lot more work, don't get me wrong. And the game would probably even go up to a $60 game tag, because that's got a lot of extra dialogue and work. But what the hell do I know? You know, I'm not the one who worked on it. I don't know what the decision processes were behind the scenes. But I'd like to imagine that you wouldn't have to sacrifice much in order to accomplish that, other than their time and how quickly they could release the title. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for the last question for Mondays with Mr. Happy. We're not doing any Twitch questions again because I just got back. I was like, I don't want to do this live on Twitch. I want to take a few minutes break before I go and take care of this. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you again to our Patreon sponsors for supporting the channel through #demonetized. I am going to go probably render this and then just veg out a little bit while I plan. Actually, no, I do need to plan for some YouTube stuff. I have a sponsored Opera Omnia video coming out on the most recent Lost Chapters. So I got to play. You know what? I should probably just sit back and relax and play the Lost Chapters, get an idea for what I want to do with that. Then record the footage for it tomorrow, maybe sometime, and then release the video on Wednesday. I don't know. It's going to be super busy, but I got to make time to do this, and I got to make time to do stuff for PAX West as well. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap for me. Thank you everyone for watching. If you have questions for next week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy, ask them in the Dream Network forums. There's a link in the description. Go there, ask the question, I answer it, bada bing, bada boom. We're all good. Anyway, for the third time, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.